Hello, everyone. This is Lysander Xanthus and Eliza the Kitchen Witch. And we are doing a live Q&A today about ghosts and hauntings. Today is also Day of the Dead. So yes.
All Souls Day.
Yes, we are doing the live Q&A together today. Since the Kitchen Witch also happens to be a psychic medium, and she has a lot of experience with ghosts and such. So, yes. Hello, Ian. Hello, everybody. So, as usual, we will kind of talk about our experiences and what we know about the subject. And at any time, you guys are welcome to comment or ask questions about the topic, ghosts and hauntings. I am doing mini readings during this video, but only on the topic of ghosts and hauntings, and if you have issues with those. And today, I'm asking for donations for readings. So you can send a donation of any amount. It can even be just $1. And I will do a mini reading for you. It has to be on the video topic. Ian asks, I was wondering if we cleared the spirits out of my house. So we will discuss some of the ways that you can tell that you have successfully vacated spirits from your home. To a degree, I feel like if you have successfully removed spirits, that there would be a noticeable difference of some sort. If you had needed to clear them, I would assume that that's because you were able to sense them, or that there were some issues pertaining to having them there. And if you have successfully removed them, then those things should be alleviated.
I do speak, by the way. Hello, everybody.
Do you have anything to add additionally about how to tell if spirits have vacated from your home for people who can't actually see the spirits? Because obviously if you can, then it's pretty obvious that they're gone.
I find that it's usually pretty obvious that you've cleared a haunting in general. If you knew you were haunted, you should be able to tell that you're not. The thing to keep in mind is that even if you clear a haunting from your home, just like people, spirits can leave us behind residual energy.
Yes.
So what you might be seeing or dealing with is a residual energy of some kind, a uneasy feeling in a place where it always spent its time, or
any of the symptoms you associate with having it there. So you may need to also clear the energy from your home, just a general cleansing.
Okay.
Oh, let's
absolutely. We can definitely
see more. Iris says, my new house seems to have a couple presences hanging around. I don't mind them at all, but I'd love to know more about them so that I can either remove or harmonize with them. That's a great question. Thank you for your donation. So I will be reading on that. Eve says, how are you? We are well.
In our new home.
Yes. We hope you are well also. All right. So I'm going to connect to your energy, Iris. And through you, I'll be connecting to your home to kind of get a sense of who is there. Hello, Jessica.
Yeah, Ian, if you sage, that's really great. It should help clear away some of that residual energy. But the thing to also remember is that you need to fill the space with a new energy.
Yes.
Get some Nog Champa, play some jazzy music, walk around, clap your hands, and sing out loud. There's a number of different ways to put brand new energy into a space once you've cleared it. But you have to make sure to put a new energy in there, or that residual energy can kind of build up in the corners, as it were.
Yeah, kind of what happens when you use sage or you clear, otherwise you create a vacancy because you've removed energy. So if you don't refill that energy, then it'll, nature abhors a vacuum, so it'll just suck in whatever energy is nearest. So uh, cleansing is good, but be sure you add something in after.
Hello, everybody.
Hello, hello.
We are doing very well. We got moved into our new home. We're sitting in our brand new office/sanctuary. We're looking forward to posting videos a little later on today about clearing energy from your home and blessing a home, so you can have those to look forward to. So let's go back to our
Iris.
Yes, Iris, our request here. Iris was just telling us that she's moved into a new home and that there are some spirits there. So what we're going to do is we're going to reach out, we're going to speak to those spirits and see what is going on there, how many there are, and what their origins are.
So I'm going to connect to you now and then reach through you to your home. Okay. I do sense something. I'm not actually sure that there are multiple presences. Are you able to pick up through me? There are multiple?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, the one that stands out the most to me is like, I don't know if you actually have an attic, but it's like above. It's above in some way.
Whether you have an attic or a crawl space or it has a general hangs out on your ceiling kind of feeling.
Yeah.
There's
one above, and I feel like one is in a closet, and one is a girl child.
Yeah, the kid's the one I picked up on the most. You do have a girl child. It's not a demon or anything. It is, in fact, a child.
She's in the closet. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like a closet and a hallway.
Yeah.
You would probably hear that in the kind of running footsteps or tapping on the walls. I feel like she probably has a strong presence. Like if you're in her area, you know, in her general vicinity, you're going to feel her.
Yeah. So since she stands out the most, we'll talk about her first, and we'll talk about the presence that's above whatever the makeup of your house is or home. So to me, what I sense from her is that she likes the closet because it's small and safe. She is still a child, even if she is deceased. Yes. Iris says, yes, there's an attic. We haven't been up there. There's lots of tapping. She loves kitties. Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely. I get the impression she's very friendly. She died of some kind of illness. It was more recent than not, probably in the 70s or 80s. It wasn't that long ago. And we say little girl, but I'm saying probably about 11 or 12. And I mean, she's happy. She feels like she's forgotten who she is, which isn't uncommon with spirits, especially younger ones. But she's very aware of her surroundings, and she's very aware of what she is, even if she doesn't know her own name.
Yeah, she's very much a child and friendly.
The one in the attic seems like how to describe him.
That's the strongest presence. It stood out first.
He's not negative, but I get the impression he probably wants you to leave his space alone. Like, he's used to people living in the house, so he's just made the attic where he hangs out.
Yeah. So if you have a natural inclination to not be in that area,
that would make sense.
Oh, wow.
That would make sense. The attachment to the home is very, especially the emotional attachment could be very strong for some people. So that does make sense. And I feel like whoever's living in your attic just is used to other people living there and just wants his space. He's not going to give you any trouble.
Yeah.
But maybe leave him alone, you know?
Yeah. So, I mean, you can go into your attic, just kind of like announce your presence and just be
respectful.
Polite.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's cool. He just wants to be left alone. And then you have a drifter, but she.
Yeah.
It's kind of middling.
To me, it feels like an older woman.
Okay.
It's like kind of around the front of the house, like if there's a porch.
No. He's going to be fine with you doing work on the house. None of the spirits that are around your home have any
aggressiveness.
Yeah, they're not angry. They're not
territorial or hostile.
No.
They don't hate you or anything. They're just there because sometimes there's just nowhere else to be and they have their own attachments to this place.
Ultimately, the one in the attic, as long as you tell him what's going on, he's going to stay out of the way. You might find him in another part of the house temporarily. But yeah, that's the one. She doesn't actually live in your house, though. The old woman doesn't live in your house. She lives around your house. Mm-hmm. Your house is just kind of along her walkway.
Yeah.
When she walks around the earth in your area, she walks through your house. So you'll probably only feel her here and there. It's not going to be a constant presence. And it wouldn't surprise me if she's just oblivious to you. She probably just has no idea that anybody's even there, per se. Mm. She's just doing what she does, which is move about through whatever memory she has of that area. Kind of reminds me of... her memory reminds me of like a large property with like a farm. There you go. That would make sense.
Interesting.
Yeah, there's just movement. She's just moving along the area.
I don't know that if it's living or a spirit. I sense a dog in the living room. Animals stand out to me sometimes.
Yeah, so those are the presences in your home. I think overall you've got some nice spirits there. Nothing to worry about. Just let the old guy in your attic know when you're doing things so that he can find somewhere else to hide while it's happening. You know, the little girl's just gonna be there. That's just who she is, what she does.
Yeah. We'll address other comments in a moment. Mm-hmm. And of course the old woman is really kind of incidental in a lot of ways. 10 dogs lived here with the old owners.
So one of them did stay behind. That's great.
So to me it looks like a medium dog with curly brown hair. Not quite a terrier, but very similar.
Probably.
Oh, yeah. I did see a dog in the living room. So, I mean...
You're picking up on everybody. That's all that is.
Yeah.
It's hard not to pick up on Blair.
We know her in real life.
So, yeah. Unless you have any other questions, Iris, I think that about covers it.
Yeah, there's nothing you really need to do to harmonize with them. And as far as if you ever decide that you don't want those presences, please contact us so we can move them to their side, not just someone who's going to kick them off your property and they'll be forced to wander. Mm-hmm. We'll talk about that more in a moment. but they shouldn't cause you any problems. So it's really just your personal preference. All right. So,
let's talk about donations for readings.
Yes. So because some people have joined us, I'm going to go over what it is we're doing again. This is a live Q&A about ghosts and hauntings. So you are welcome to comment and ask questions about the subject. It's kind of like a learning discussion. I am doing mini readings. Well, we're both doing mini readings, but they are only going to be about the subject of ghosts and hauntings. And mini readings are by donation only. So if you would like a mini reading, send a donation to the PayPal link in the description of this video. It can be any amount, and we will do a mini reading for you. So please note that. Iris says, everyone's happy here. I'm good. Thank you. I like having them around. So glad, and you're welcome. So we will take a moment to kind of talk about the subject.
I'm also eating my lunch, so if I disappear, it's because I'm eating my lunch. I apologize. So, as Lysander was saying, this is meant to be a learning experience. We are open to any questions you have about hauntings in your home, how to deal with such things. Just share your experiences. We will share some of ours. Yeah, let's talk about Day of the Dead. Let's talk about our All Souls Day and what
So
that's about.
The veil begins to thin on Halloween, and it is at its thinnest on November 2nd, also known as Day of the Dead. The actual holiday is, my cursory understanding is that it's meant to honor our ancestors and loved ones and keep their memory alive and continue to send them love, blessing, and support through the altars and offerings. So it's a way to stay close to those who have passed on. And it is important because in our world spiritually, we were built to need each other and to need love to sustain us. So that is one way we offer love to those who have gone before us. Now, about ghosts, I assume we all know what ghosts are. It's a person who has passed on and has stayed behind instead of moving on to the next step of their spiritual journey. In our worldview, that means reincarnating, wherever or in whatever form that means. Obviously, there's a lot of reasons that a soul may choose to stay behind after death. They're not ready. Most of the time it boils down to not being ready to move on or let go, regardless of what the reason is. It could be a good reason, like wanting to watch over family, or because their death was sudden or tragic, or everyone has their own reasons, because after all, ghosts are just people like us, so their motivations are the same as ours would be. And obviously when a ghost stays behind, that's how you get a haunting. Hauntings are not always just don't mind me. Thank you very much for the donations, everyone. Jessica, if you had a specific question, let us know, or if you just wanted to supply our content, either one is fine. What was I saying? Oh, hauntings are not always caused by ghosts. That may sound a little strange. They can be caused by other kinds of entities, most notoriously demons, which do exist, but they're not really as scary as they sound. But unless people have questions about that, that's a topic for another time. There are other kinds of entities like fairies. Pretty much there's so many different things out there. So it may not be a deceased person. There's a lot of other types of spirits that could be in your house.
Deceased people are the most common, though.
They are the most common and perhaps surprisingly the most troublesome. when they're bad, they're really bad. Also, hauntings can also be caused by residual energy. I assume most of us know what that is. It's like a collection of just negativity or emotions or energy or the imprint of a memory on a place. Oh, you don't have a question? Well, okay. Well, thank you very much for the donation. I appreciate you.
Namaste.
The other thing that causes hauntings is a PK or psychokinetic manifestation, also known as a poltergeist. And these are extremely difficult to deal with.
Because you're doing it to yourself.
So what it is it is like an entity or spirit, except it's not an independent creature. It is a thought form or being that has been composed of the suppressed emotions of a person living in the location who is a sensitive or has some degree of ability, whether they've acknowledged it or not. But it's like whatever feelings they're kind of pushing off, if they're intense enough, will create this. And they typically tend to cause a lot of trouble. And unfortunately, like, you can clear them, but they will reform. So the only way to truly get rid of them is for the person creating them to actually deal with their feelings. A lot of time that could be like a tall order. When I was young, I saw a lot. Yes, children tend to just be naturally more open because we're all psychic, really. We just kind of shut down as we get older. Jessica says, I'll just let you give me a reading or whatever you want to do. Can you tune into my energy? You have my permission.
Okay.
Sure.
Fantastic.
Also, Jessica, I hope you enjoyed your Halloween with your son.
We sat around and watched Coco. All right. Again, I apologize. We're eating lunch while we stream. We ran out of time beforehand. So,
oh man, I waited too long to start drinking this.
I know, me too. All right, let's tune in.
So I've tuned into your energy. You feel as though you're in an empty, closed off space of some kind. I'm going to tune into your energy and kind of look for, just for the sake of curiosity, anything related to ghosts or hauntings, such as where you are. I know you've made some really big decisions and life changes right now.
Thank you.
She also moved across several states and left a serious relationship recently.
Good for you, Jessica.
Good for you.
Good for you. Sometimes the hardest step is the first step. Well, that's always the hardest step. What am I saying? The hardest step is the first step. Every step afterwards seems like a breeze. It's going to be okay. I'm not picking up any kind of spiritual presence in that way.
So there's no ghosts in your immediate vicinity.
I can tell you about other things around you, since this is on the topic of kind of Day of the Dead and everything.
Ancestors.
I was going to say, you actually have one. There's a lot of different types of guides in this world, and the closest in relation to a ghost would be a spiritual guide, like an ancestral guide. And you do have an ancestral guide that is there supporting you. And she's definitely a woman.
She's like hovering over her.
Yeah. She's being very protective of you right now.
She almost seems like
you did
shamanic or spiritual.
Yeah.
It's like very much the wise woman, just like very long hair and like literally like
you did make the right choice. And
yes,
this spirit here with you is very old. There's no way you could have possibly have known her. I don't know.
All right.
Probably
So probably was actually like a practicing spiritualist when she was alive. The
Something
entity.
like that. It's something more like a midwife or like like an elder, like a town elder. Not necessarily a deliberately spiritual role, but a very like intensely protective and emotionally involved role. See, I'm getting the impression that it was like your great grandmother, not necessarily your grandmother. Because she's just older than that. It comes from a very small town or village or something like that. Something where she would have had a lot of influence in her community. But great energy.
Yeah, like a woman who looked after other women.
Mm-hmm.
And it's definitely regarding you like a daughter, even though you weren't like literally her daughter.
Mm-hmm.
So she is there for you.
She's definitely lending you a lot of energy and a lot of support in what you're going through right now. And you're doing a good job.
Mm-hmm.
We always question the paths we take in life. The two of us have been totally uncertain about our own moves in life, but the thing to remember is to always look forward in those steps that we're taking. If you stay positive and you're always pushing forward with that, I can do it. Oh, yeah, that's her.
Okay. Yeah.
Yes, that's definitely. I'm like, I don't know why I feel like she is so old.
Yeah.
That would make sense. Okay.
Wow. Good for her. She lived a long time.
Yeah. Definitely.
Wow.
Yeah, no, she was so old. I definitely feel like that's probably who we're picking up on.
Well, that's really awesome then.
Good for her. That's all. You got to be spiritual to live 107. That's a heck of a thing.
The only other thing that really super stands out is this orange energy in the chest here. And obviously that just kind of indicates like emotional distress and stress. So obviously easier said than done, but kind of find some activity that helps you vent that or to find some peace for yourself. Oh, are they cooked?
They are.
Finally, jeez. So that's the only thing that stands out. Alrighty. So that concludes Jessica's mini reading.
All right. So what do we want to talk about? You want to talk about seeing ghosties?
Well, I talked about ghosts and hauntings and I gave a basic definition. We could talk about, there's something I mentioned earlier, like, not just kicking spirits out of your home, but actually moving them on.
Very, very important.
Oh, thank you, Blair. Did you have a question?
Blair. Do you want us to tell you things?
I'm just going to move the notification out of the way. As much fun as it is to see them pile up. Does she have any messages for you? Well, Jessica,
just that she's really there.
Just she's a haven of safety.
If you sit down and you just take a minute, take a few deep breaths, the best way to meditate to reach out to a spirit guardian like that is to breathe deeply and fill your chest with light. And then let that radiate around you and you can feel those presences around you. So take some time, whenever you have a minute, to just sit to yourself, breathe deeply, kind of focus yourself into the center and fill your chest with light. And you should be able to feel her presence around you. I get the impression she's a woman of very few words. She is there though, and it's very strong, and I think you'd be able to feel it if you just take the minute to reach out for her. Blair, do you want us to answer a question for you?
She'll get to us when she's ready.
Mm-hmm.
So, removing entities from your home. This is actually quite a big subject, which we will get to after reading for Blair.
Uh-oh.
You're ghost hunting.
What you doing out ghost hunting?
I mean, not that it's naturally bad, it just leaves you very prone to picking stuff up. Trying to see if he drips it. Alright, I'm just reading Victoria's comment real quick. Oh yes, I did show them the angelics. So yes, they
follow us. We'll get you in 1 second, Blair. Let us catch up with the comments.
Tamanda, just so you know, we're doing readings for donations today, but it can be any amount, even just $1. All right. So Blair,
Blair, what'd you do? You got a mean little thing following you around.
Yeah.
That didn't take much. Well, I know you, it doesn't take much, but has your brother had any problems with being ill or feeling under the weather, or like
so he's still
being
with you.
Lethargic, being feel like this presence is stealing his energy? It's definitely a male spirit and it's attracted to other men, but I feel like he might be sucking the energy out of your brother a little bit. Have you noticed your brother behaving differently or anything like that? It's not the only male presence he's taking energy from, but yeah, it does seem more your brother than the other energy I'm seeing. Let's see. You know, ironically, I don't think you picked it up from the ghost hunt. I think the ghost hunt opened you up to being followed at another point. Like, in a theater or studio, you picked him up, not... Unless you were doing a ghost hunt in a theater or studio. Oh. Okay. Well, that can also be really difficult to deal with as well. Okay. Short answer is you picked this thing up from a theater or studio of some type. It's seen like a black box with overhead lighting and lots of Fresnels. So, and I know you're into theater stuff, so who knows where you even picked that up. It's not the one from the garage, I know that much.
It is, I just keep seeing on the boy, seeing like a red energy by his head.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like he does this, like he's really kind of pointy in a way and clings. The ghost, that is.
Yes. No, I'm definitely seeing your brother's sensitivity for sure. See, my brother's autistic, but he's like a brick wall. There is nothing spiritual there at all. I know, you've been in so many theaters. It's hard to say which one. All I can say is you picked him up in a theater. He was some kind of techie that got angry and died and stayed angry.
Still angry and very kind of like a little animalistic.
I'm going to say do you and ask you a question I already know the answer to. Do you give your brother a lot of attention? Because I'm getting the impression that this is a jealous reaction, not a...
Yeah.
It's not like he's attacking the weakest person in the room. He followed you because the ghost likes you.
Yeah, I was going to say he likes
and other
Blair
people taking attention away is upsetting him. You got a stalker. That's what you have. You want me to just get rid of it? Because there's nothing good happening there, and it would be easier to just
move it along.
Move it along. I definitely think that he's having an ill effect on your brother.
Do you want to do it, or would you like me to do it?
Doesn't matter. You can do it. I'm eating still.
All right. I'll remove it. You don't need to do anything special. Just kind of sit and relax.
It's attached to you, so it'll be easy to remove.
So he should be gone.
That was dramatic.
I
mean, you could have just picked it up by the scruff and chucked it out the door, but I suppose what you did works too.
That's what I do with everybody. I move them to the next stage.
Well, that's the most appropriate thing to do. Okay, Blair, you should be okay now.
I'm sorry, I haven't had anyone actually watch me do that before.
You're fine.
Did you feel it?
How you doing?
I'm sorry, I did open a dimensional portal in your location. That's closed now.
Yes. You probably have been feeling the attachment for a while. So if you feel anything physically, it's because it just got ripped right out. So you should be fine. Do yourself and your brother a favor and eat some chocolate. I know that sounds like a crazy thing, but the cacao bean is actually a spiritual healer. So eat some chocolate. Eat some chocolate. It'll help replenish your energy, and it'll start putting your brother in a better place as well. And just make sure that your brother's getting a lot of your energy. Just kind of spend some time with him, project your own energy to him. It'll help him heal it back a little faster because he has been getting attacked a little bit. Okay? You should be good. So, what Lysander did effectively, as we were talking about earlier, ghosts are people who die and stay behind. What they don't do is move on to the next stage of their
spiritual journey.
So what Lysander did was reach out through the void, pull it from this plane, and make it go on its spiritual journey. So that spirit is no longer in this plane as we know it. It's on to the next one. Doesn't get an option. Good.
You're so welcome. Yeah, salt bath is good too.
You could probably use a salt bath. He'll be okay. Love and chocolate will heal him up just fine. And anytime, sweetheart, you have our number. Just call us if you have any more problems like that. And if you do any more ghost hunting, make sure you do something to protect yourself. Hello from Idaho. Speaking of which, just to recap, we are doing an open discussion about ghosts and hauntings. We are doing mini readings and, spiritual banishings and things like that for a donation. So if any of you have anything that you would like taken care of, if you have any spiritual questions, you're welcome to just go ahead and ask any questions related to the topic. But if you'd like a mini reading, or if you would like some help with a haunting in your home, go ahead and throw us a donation. Doesn't matter what the number is. And you can do that by clicking, or is there a link, or is it the
PayPal link is in the description of this video.
There we go. I'm new to this whole thing. It's cool. So, like I was just mentioning to Blair, if you're going to go ghost hunting, or go into really old houses, hang out in cemeteries, visit old museums, if you love antiquing.
Touch old stuff.
If you touch old stuff, go into old stuff, walk around on old stuff.
Historical museums. That stuff is real and old and has stuff on it.
Yes. A lot of them do. The thing to remember is the more you're exposed to the spiritual world, the wider your door is, the more open you are, and the more likely you are to gain an attachment. So always remember to do something to protect yourself before going into those environments. Yeah. There's a number of ways you can do that. There's a number of ways that you can do that. One is to do a rose cross, or I like to call it the hamster, where you build a cage around yourself, and we can demonstrate that for you a little later. Other ways are to keep a talisman, a protective talisman on you. Lysander and I both have hand-wrapped quartz crystals that we wear at all times. But any trinket or talisman, a ring, a pair of earrings that you have a personal attachment to, just put the intention of protection into those things.
Ironically, the talisman part is the white wrapping, not the crystal.
Right. So there are a lot of things you can do to protect yourself, but anytime you're going to be around something old, protect yourself, and especially if you're ghost hunting.
All right, Iris has a comment. I was told once that it's a good idea to give resident spirits a job of sorts to keep them busy. What do you think about that? I've not done that myself. There are obviously no spirits in anywhere we live because we
don't do that.
We don't let them in. We will do a separate video to demonstrate the rose cross, so it's easier to find.
I was gonna go ahead and do it, and then we'll also post a video so that you guys can reflect back on it. I find when you have troublesome spirits, if they're willing to cooperate with you and you give them a job, that can be a really good way to work with them. Typically, I would find that spirits kind of have their own jobs that they've taken on themselves. So you might have a child in the house that actually is keeping away, fairies or gnomes or any sort of negative, snatchy, steely kind of creatures. Or you might have a little old man who's just keeping people off your lawn. You don't know. But a lot of times, especially the longer they've been there, there are certain roles that they play in the house that maintain the energetic stability of the home.
Thank you for the donation, Tamanda. Please let us know if you had a question. I think you asked something earlier, but just remind us what it was you'd like us to look into.
All right. I'm going to take a minute to demonstrate the rose cross.
Well, so we wait for Tamanda to get back to us, so let me flip the camera around. Ready?
Yes. All right, everybody. So a rose cross is a very, very simple protective charm that you can do. You'll want to stand center. Take a moment to make sure you're kind of focused inward. Root your feet. Make sure that you're reaching your crown upwards so that you're drawing energy from earth and sky. And you're going to very simply draw an X, so linear and a cross, and then a circle in the middle. And what you're going to do is you're going to envision right where that circle is a rose that kind of starts as a bud and blooms outward. Okay, so that you have a full blossom here. And you'll turn to your side and repeat it. To the back. Now, the most important thing is you're going to want to go above your head and below your feet. Once you have all of your X's, you're going to draw a line that connects every single one. And it's best if you can do it in an unbroken line. So going all the way around the top to bottom on both sides, then around the center. And once you have them all connected, visualize it in your mind and make it into gold. Make that whole basket, that cage that you've created, light it in gold and spread it so that you're filling your space. So you should be able to go hand to hand, stretching your feet out, and that should be the size of your ball. That way nothing's going to touch you. You want to create distance between you and any interference.
Yeah, if you're handling something especially aggressive, envision it as iron.
If you're going to be handling something aggressive, for some reason you know you're going into a house with a hostile spirit, choose iron. The other way to look at it is that you can wrap it in thorns. These are roses we're talking about. Roses have thorns. Wrap your cage in thorns, and it'll add that additional protection. But a basic rose cross should protect you from most things.
All right, thank you. All right, we're going to sit back down. Tamanda says, can you check and hear me if ghosts? Is this right?
Yeah.
There we go.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Thank you very much, Iris. Okay. Go ahead and tune into Tamanda.
So I'm connecting to your energy, and I'm going to connect to your residence where you live as well. Okay, so I'm having a look at the environment. It feels very dark, and I definitely feel like something is here that you probably don't want there. It just kind of like makes you catch your breath a little.
Yeah.
And I feel as though it definitely, there's a personal connection to you in some way. I get images of like a trees and like frantically running. I think it's just like tuning into the feeling it can cause if you feel very uneasy in your home. There's that feeling of like it makes you want to get away from it and not approach it.
Almost like you got a location in your house that you just do not want to go into. Wherever it is at that point. I don't even feel like it's necessarily the same place all the time. I got the skull feeling where like I can, like, reaching into it, I could feel this start to go. I feel so it's like deeply connected to the other side.
Yeah, I see an image of like a framed photo on a mantle, and I'm wondering if it's connected to an object.
Might be.
Or like someone you know or knew.
I'm trying to put my finger on what the feeling is.
I feel like it's somewhat where and starting to evade. Evade us.
It's avoiding me entirely. That's why I'm having trouble. I'm like deeply reminded of like this is gonna sound really random, but I'm not sure how else to describe it. Very deeply reminded of I Got Friends on the Other Side, the song.
Oh, yeah. Do you think it's connected to like for lack of a better term, like that African spirituality?
I think,
or like hoodoo, or like that earthiness and earth and connection.
Yeah, I'm getting like old hoodoo connection from it, where it's a ghost, but it's not a ghost. It stopped being a ghost a long time ago because it kind of got eat up a little bit when it went to the other side.
So you feel like someone who is serving a certain type of entity and is now like a servant of some kind. Well, it'd be very interesting that it's around this individual then.
Ancestral would be my guess. Either it's an ancestral spirit or it's something embedded in the earth where this person is, where it would be constant contact. Like you said, there's kind of like a sense of there being like an image or an object attached to it. It depends on whether or not there's something in the ground. Because you know how
people bury things all the time.
Well, especially in that practice. Burying is a huge part of that practice. Yeah. That's what I got. I need to keep a distance from it, so I'm looking at it from over here.
Feels male. With effort, it can comprise a form. The eyes are red, which is just a symbolic notation of its nature.
And I'm not saying it's evil.
No.
By any means. Just to clarify. I'm not saying this is an evil thing.
The signature of its energy has all those feelings of like fear and heavy emotion.
Which typically is just an indication that the way the individual died was traumatic. They died in fear, trying to escape, trying to run, whatever the situation. and the association to that branch of magic may be something they practiced in life. It might be something that they dabbled with and didn't know what they were dealing with and hit that afterlife and had to pay for it.
It could even be something they did in a past life.
It could be associated to a past life. Normally I'd be able to get more information, but the nature of this thing makes it so I can't get any closer to it. So that's going to be on Lysander to try and get more info than that. My abilities, while great, are very rooted in the fact that I have died, and getting too close to certain types of energy affects my health. So I have to be very careful.
Yeah.
So I'm going to step back because I know my own limits, and we're going to let Lysander attempt to get more information.
We all have different limits. Okay. So I show an image of you to the entity, and he refers to you as granddaughter, which may be a literal reference, and if so, it would make the possibility of being attached to a photo make sense, or it may just be how he perceives you. I see an image of you much younger. Oh no, you're good. And with his arm around you. He has a very strong, intense energy. I feel as though ancestral makes sense, and as someone who is, I would describe as being extremely defensive of you, to the point of being aggressive or violent to people who pose a threat to you or the way he thinks your home and your life should be. Oh, I responded to that. Okay. Well, we're okay. We don't need to stop. She's just stopping, taking care of herself.
I know my limits, and it's one of the most important things as any kind of spiritualist is to understand where your limits are so that you're not harming yourself. So that's why Lysander took over. So I'm good. We can go ahead and read into this as much as needed.
So he identifies her as a granddaughter, just catching you up.
Mm-hmm.
And he feels protected, but almost in like a grabbing or possessive way. And it's not meant to be negative towards you. It just means if anyone threatens you, that he will not respond in a benevolent and merciful way. It would be very attacking.
The other thing is, you have to be careful with entities like that, because what you perceive as being an attack and what he perceives as being an attack may not be the same thing. You get into a fight with your boyfriend ends up, in a car accident, that kind of thing. It may not have been a big deal to you. It could have been resolved, but to the spirit, it could be too much. So part of that is also figuring out what his level of protection is and what he would perceive as a threat. Any chance you can gauge that? Excuse me.
Sorry, I'm just taking time to
No, it's
observe.
okay. I know what you're doing. We all understand. You're reading the energy. I'm trying not to make noise, but still be entertaining.
I feel like that is his nature, but I feel like there's an impediment to his effectiveness and ability to act. You may, it feels as though you may have purposely or unwittingly set a limitation on him, or that it may be imposed by something else. And I feel as though his presence around you is not long standing. Like he's got to you within the last few years at most, and that there has been something stopping him from getting to you sooner, or maybe that he passed recently.
Okay.
It's a bit difficult to discern.
The limitation could also be you setting your own boundaries. Your energy will always be stronger than that of a spirit's if you impose your own boundaries.
So if people aren't, getting smacked all around you, that's probably why. Obviously, I know you have some very serious things going on with you, especially with certain individuals from your past and being mistreated. So I did ask him about them. That's where that sense of limitation kind of came up. It's almost like very much like a angry brother figure being held back from beating the crap out of your boyfriend because you're like, oh, but I love him. That's just the feeling of it, but it's kind of like he has such an intense energy, but he's kind of
it's almost like you haven't given him permission. If you would like a little bit of righteous vengeance, you can give this spirit permission, and there will probably be some serious vengeance. I mean, he's powerful. He's powerful enough that I stepped back, so...
I know. That's why I was kind of like, so what's going on, man? I know just of like one or two incidences, so... It's like, I know you could do something about that.
Right. So it's about whether or not you want to give him permission and whether or not you're comfortable with him. He's not a danger to you by any means.
Yeah. Once I started addressing him directly, he toned like way down. So I feel like he's like always on defensive. So your home always feels very threatening. So I'm not actually sure if you would even feel it, but other people may feel a sense of foreboding going into your home, especially if they're male.
Well, like I said, my first impression was, if you got into a fight with your boyfriend, he would wreck their car. But yeah, it seems to be just a matter of permission, giving him permission to do what he wants to do, which is make everyone around you suffer for looking at you sideways. Nothing wrong with that. I've got one of those. Although I do have to actively tell him to tone it down.
Just trying to sense if there's like anything else. Obviously, even though he has some ability, he can't protect you from literally everything. It's like I feel like there's something else. I'm just trying to figure out what it is. Is this feeling, it's not necessarily related to ghosts per se, but a feeling about you of like being at the mercy of the tides of the world, just like stuff happening around you or other people's influence. So there's like this chaotic currents of energy around you, and that makes trouble for you because you're not anchored in any way. I feel like that there is a fear or an aversion to creating that anchor in a way. Like it's like being afraid of spirituality, but not quite that. Like about her herself.
I think it's more I think it's more of a again, words. It's more of a need to stand your ground. You need to stand your ground, and you need to let him help you do that. The reality is that this spirit is here to protect you. He wants to protect you. He feels the overwhelming need to protect you, and you need to give him permission. You need to literally, where you stand right here, right now, put both feet on the ground and say, I'm not going to take it anymore, and give him permission to start making a path for you so that you can get out of the chaos you're in. I mean, that's reading her, that's what I'm getting.
That's a good way of articulating it.
Let him help you carve a path. It's a very, I don't know, it's a very good spirit for you. Bad spirit for everybody else. But there's nothing wrong with having one of those. I have one of those. They're great. I like angry spirits who don't let people screw with you. They're very, very positive things to have for you.
So I hope that is interesting.
I hope that helps.
So no one that needs to be kicked out.
Nope. I don't think so.
Right, that
and if you ever decide you don't want him to be with you any longer, you just have to ask him to leave. He's there for you. If you truly don't need him, he will just go. And that's all there is to it. So that concludes that? Yes?
Yeah.
All right.
So we're going to talk about removing entities.
Ooh. Let's brief them on all the info again.
Yes. So
what we're doing is
we're doing a live Q&A about ghosts and hauntings, just to catch up anyone who's joined us recently. We are doing mini readings, but they're for donation, so donate any amount that you like and we will do a mini reading for you, but it has to be on the subject of ghosts and hauntings. So yes, you're welcome to comment or to ask questions about ghosts or hauntings at any point. This is meant to be kind of like a learning discussion. And we've touched on a few different aspects of this subject. I'm very pleased to see that there's a high participation, so we've mostly been doing readings. So until the next one comes up, we are going to talk about removing entities. Well, do you think it would be better to talk about like how do you know if something is in your home that needs to be removed, or like the effects of that, or just to get into the removal?
It is mind-blowing, Tamanda. It really is. The entity you have with you is a phenomenal asset. You just need to sit down and have a conversation with it. Just out loud. Even if you can't hear him respond, just have a conversation. So how to tell if your house is haunted?
Or if you, as an individual, are haunted, because there is a difference. There are some things that are pretty obvious, like
as cheesy as the movies are, if your cabinet doors are open,
if things are moving around,
if you find your chairs all on top of your table, your doors are unlocked but you can't open them,
hearing people talk who aren't there.
Anyone calls your name right next to you and there's no one there, you might have a problem. Movies are ridiculously over the top about hauntings, but let me tell you, I've seen some really crazy stuff happen.
They can do all that.
They can do all of that. They really, really can. And while it is incredibly uncommon, it does happen. I had a child ghost literally chuck a teddy bear at my face.
All right, so let's talk about more subtle things, because just because a haunting is more subtle doesn't mean it's less dangerous.
In fact, the subtlety is usually a bad thing. If you don't have any obvious signs of a haunting, it usually means that's because they're attaching to you, using your energy to grow or to build upon itself. And that usually means they're attacking your health. They're attacking the health of your family, your animals. So subtleties are bad.
So subtle signs that you might be haunted. Of course, there's like feeling like you're not alone or that you're watched. Night terrors or nightmares, especially seeing in your dreams entities around you, or hallucinating in the in-between state between as you're falling asleep or as you wake up. Personality changes, sudden, well, it could be gradual too, your health becoming worse and worse. Physical sensations. We're talking about subtle things, obviously, like random scratches or whatever, more obvious. Other subtle things. Well, those are the big ones. Personality changes. You either yourself becoming more hostile or everyone where you live becoming more hostile and fighting more. So increase in aggression, decrease in health, physical health, and mental health. Especially if there's no obvious symptoms for your health conditions, oftentimes there can be an energetic reason behind that. Yes. Intense feelings of fear, anxiety, paranoia, or having strong emotions without cause. Mm-hmm. What else? Those are the things like, you should be really afraid of. Those honestly are kind of the most worrisome things. Yes. Yeah. So Iris says, I had something jump on my back after walking past the witch house in Salem. I was a believer after that. I bet. Yeah. I haven't been to Salem myself, so but I bet. My first experience seeing a ghost, I was in the 3rd grade, and one of the girls I was in Girl Scouts with was murdered. Yes, a child. And she lived about a block and a half from my house. And the first crazy thing about that incident was that I knew she had died. And I told my mother. I said, I think something bad happened to Vanessa. And she was like, okay, sure. And when they found her body, that was kind of a freaky situation. And then 2 weeks later, I was riding my bike down the street, and I saw her turn the corner coming up the street towards me and crashed my bike into a tree because I tried to avoid her. And I continued to see her for, I think it was 5 weeks or so after that, while the investigation was being handled. And I actually was part of the investigation, and I gave them clues that Vanessa was telling me that led to them figuring out who murdered her. So that was my first experience with a spirit. It was also my first time seeing a therapist.
I was able to talk to her, and she was able to tell me who had done it and where we could find the evidence to convict the individual. So that's a hell of a thing for a 7-year-old, I will tell you.
Yeah. Let's see. Brooke asks, what about friendly spirits? Our dog used to sleep under our bed, and we'd be downstairs and hear him wagging his tail. We always thought our ghost was petting him.
It's very possible. Friendly spirits are very, very common. For as many bad spirits as there are twice as many good spirits.
We just tend to not notice them.
We just don't tend to notice them because they don't tend to get in the way, or
Cause problems.
They don't cause problems. But animals and children almost always see spirits in a home. Almost always. So it's very possible the dog was reacting to the spirit in the home, to being pet, to being played with, to just being happy to see them like they would any other owner. I had a friend with a Chihuahua who used to get excited every time the ghost of her uncle would walk in the room. So it's very, very common for positive spirits to be in the home and just lay low. They're trying not to bother you, so they kind of stay out of the way.
Yeah. As far as ghosts go, of course there are friendly ones, and most often they're either family members who choose to stay behind to look after the family, or it's just someone who had a place or person they really loved in life and they didn't want to leave. They're comfortable kind of being in the in-between, as it were.
And very rarely you just get people who think it's cool to stay behind.
It's like, I'm a ghost. Nice.
I have met that guy. I have met the guy that was like, when I died, I knew I was going to be a ghost because I thought it would be cool. And I'm a ghost, and it's cool. Weirdest conversation to have on a bus ever is to sit next to a ghost who's like, I know I'm dead. It's awesome.
There's a ghost in one of the metro subways in LA who just people watches. That's the same guy?
That's the guy.
I bet that was the guy, because it's like, it seems like the kind of guy that would just stay behind because...
He just... because he could.
Generally, staying behind is not very good as far as the soul's well-being goes. It doesn't mean it's like always a horrible thing. It's just a kind of treacherous, because the longer you're a ghost, there's the threat to kind of forgetting who you are, and that's when your spirit starts to break down, when you lose the memory of who you are. So that's why that's an issue. So if the ghost has a strong sense of themselves, then they should be fine.
What's interesting about that is that if you look at the folklore and the traditions behind Day of the Dead, you'll find that the reason that they build the... what's the word for it?
I think it's ofrendas.
There you go. The reason that they build those is because they're trying to remember their past family members and their ancestors.
Keep their identity alive.
Because it keeps their identity alive. As long as there are people around you and people who remember you, it's easier as a spirit to remember who you are. And as you begin to lose your sense of self, the spirit will start to break down and kind of degenerate. And in a lot of cases, when people think that they're being haunted by a demon or they have a demon in their home, what they're actually dealing with is a spirit that has completely lost their identity and has become inhuman and bestial. I have dealt with so many of those. I refer to them as fiends because they're not demons and they're not ghosts. They're kind of in the middle. They can be very dangerous and very aggressive. And usually when you're talking about a negative haunting, that's what you're talking about.
They're actually the most dangerous.
Demons at least know what they're doing. They have the ability to think, to act, react, behave in a way that is conscious.
Sometimes they're just minding their own business.
And sometimes they just live in your house.
Fiends are just angry and want to hurt everything around them. So that's why they're more dangerous.
It's literally the difference between a cornered wild animal and a well-trained dog. The well-trained dog can still kill you, but it knows the difference. It's
even just like a wolf. It still has its own sense of what
it has a sense of what it's doing. A fiend doesn't. It's just an angry rat in a corner trying to bite its way through. And that's really unfortunate that they reach that point. And it's one of the reasons why we don't believe in banishing spirits or just kicking them out of the home. Even when you're dealing with a spirit that has become a fiend, you really want to try to move them on to the other side, because they do have the ability to kind of regain themselves if they continue their journey.
Yeah, and when you just kick spirits out of their house, then you've kind of removed their anchor from them, and they're just like literally wandering the earth. So, reading a comment from Brooke. We've been our place for 13 years. Occasionally things will clink in the kitchen. We always greet them, never had an issue or felt any bad or evilness. We just remind them when we watch a scary movie to not get any ideas.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, that would be me. I'd be pretty mad if they decide to spook me.
Right? That's pretty great. Yeah, there it is. Peaceful ghosts that just live in your house. They're just doing their own thing. Nothing to even worry about with those.
Mm-hmm.
Typically, if you've got a positive spirit in your house, they're going to go out of their way to make sure that you're comfortable, because they're aware of the fact that they are just kind of there.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yep. So, yes. So, most of us are probably familiar with common methods of just removing entities, like sage or salt or barriers, rituals, but the goal for most of those is just to kick it out of your home.
If the spirit has been anchored to the house for any reason and you kick it out of the home, what you're doing is you're effectively taking a fish out of water. So while it might weaken them and make it so that they can't hurt other people, what you're effectively doing is punishing them. You're making it so that they'll never be able to breathe again. They'll lose their identity. They're going to lose their direction. They're not going to understand where they are or what they're supposed to be doing. At least in the home, even if they are negative spirits, they are at the very least attached to something that gives them humanity and gives them the opportunity to continue. So banishing is always dangerous.
Yeah, and something that is even more pressing is that a lot of the time, say you have your home cleared and you kick the spirit out, but you haven't set up any protections.
They come right back.
Or even if you do, they do wear down eventually. So the spirit is like just sitting outside of your house for however long it takes for it to get back in. And now it's back in your house and it's angry. It's pissed off because it got kicked out. And some people will actually do it over and over again. And each time it comes back, it's more angry and rabid. And it's actually probably deteriorated. So it's even less of its own sanity to work off of.
Yeah.
So
be careful with that.
So what does one do when you have something that you need to have removed from your home, but to actually do it effectively, at least for your own sake and hopefully for it? Like, how does everyone move a spirit along, or at least give it the opportunity to do so?
The easiest way to do that is to find a spiritualist or medium who actually acts or is actually capable of rehabilitating or providing therapy for ghosts. I've seen it advertised in a number of different ways, but it's mediums who work with ghosts, not just pushes them out. If you have your home blessed, or you have a priest come in, or you do a ritual, you're just kicking it out of your house. And like Lysander just said, they sit there and wait. Most of them
are attached go anywhere else
to that house. So the only thing you've done is push them away from their attachment, and they're going to go right back to it. Not good for you.
Even if it's long enough to where you like move away, then the next person is just
in trouble. Especially if you have a physical barrier that you're using to keep them out, whether it's salt or crystals or whatever else. If you take the crystals with you, if the salt gets cleaned up after you leave, oh man, is that thing going to come back, and the next family is going to be doomed. And I mean, if you're okay with that, then that's cool. I mean, I'm not judging. I mean, you had to deal with it. Why not give it to the next guy? That's me. I'm not necessarily always a nice person. But if you are dealing with a mild spirit, where it's a little bit hostile or a little bit unwanted, not overly aggressive, you can attempt to communicate with it on your own. And what I recommend is that you get a white candle and you light it and you put it in an open place, an open table, like a dining room table, put it right in the middle, or in the middle of a floor, something with some open space. You're going to place the candle in the center, and you're going to place it in a bowl of water. So you're going to put a bowl down, put a white candle in the middle, and light it, and then sit back away from it and attempt to speak to the spirit. And just talk to them. Tell them that they are dead, that they don't belong here anymore, that this is your home, and that you need them to move on, and ask them to walk to the light. It's a very, very basic technique. If you are able to reason with the ghost, it will work. If the ghost can't be reasoned with, you'll probably have to go with a banishing method if you're doing it yourself. But it's a very, very simple way to give them the opportunity to leave on their own.
Yeah.
And not just leave, but move on.
Yeah.
What you're effectively doing is you're creating a focal point, something for them to latch onto with the candle, and the water facilitates movement, an energetic movement. So if they want to work with you, and if they are reasonable, you may actually find that a great many of them will choose to go into the light.
Yeah. Yes, and there are mediums or other practitioners who do actually move them on.
Like the two of us.
And some charge for their services, some don't. And both are totally fine, by the way. I'm not judging anybody.
Nope.
After all, if a pipe busts in your house and it's flooding, you still have to pay the plumber to show up. He's not going to take pity on you.
Oh, don't we wish he would?
So yes, if anyone watching is dealing with that, you're welcome to shoot us a message saying you need something removed. That's our suggestions for attempting to do it yourself. I know that for the most part, that should do it. Some are extremely stubborn or violent.
Right.
So
the candle thing
for your own sake,
with an aggressive one.
For your own sake, if you need to kick it out of the house, just do that, because obviously you need to worry about your own safety if that's your only option. It's just sort of like giving you additional perspective on what that means to the spirit and overall.
Mm-hmm.
I'm definitely not saying you should just deal with being attacked, because you don't have any other options. So
definitely don't do that. If you need to banish it, banish it. Just remember that there are other options, and at least it's kind of like, hiring an exterminator. If you've got mice in your house and you hire an exterminator, you need to face the fact that you're killing a bunch of small animals, right? Kicking a ghost out of your house, you should be informed as to the fact that you're effectively pushing out a spirit who's going to go crazy.
So it's good to be aware of. Don't beat yourself up about it. They did make the decision to stay behind.
It's always a choice. Whether their story is tragic or not, they are making an active choice to stay in this world. They can choose to leave any time they want. Some of them don't know how, but that doesn't mean that they can't choose to do it. So by giving them the opportunity, a lot of them figure it out. So if they're stuck here and they don't know how to cross over, and you light a candle, put it in a bowl of water, and you say, follow the light, they'll be able to figure it out because they are making the choice to move on. It's got nothing to do with the candle and everything to do with you giving them a way out.
Yeah. So that's some about removing it. Yeah.
Story time?
Sure, we'll share some experiences if anyone has comments or if you have questions about ghosts, paranormal activity, hauntings, or anything of the sort like that, you're welcome to ask. That's what this video is for. Again, we are doing mini readings for people about ghosts or hauntings they may be dealing with, as well as removing unwanted spirits. But that is for a donation, so if you would like a mini reading, send a donation of any amount and we will read for you. So yes, we will share some of our experiences. I'm gonna kind of think about what I want to say first. Obviously, you guys are welcome to share your experiences in the comments as well.
What are we doing?
I was thinking of what story I wanted to share first.
Well,
obviously, we both have a lot of stories about ghosts and interacting with them.
What was your first experience with a ghost? I described mine. Why don't you share yours?
Iris has a comment, but I will get to that in a moment because my first ghost story is pretty short. Well, okay, hold on. I'm gonna wait for her to come back so she can help me. Just any spirit or a ghost? So, okay, I need to define it, like just any entity or a ghost.
The topic is ghosts and hauntings.
Okay, so a ghost, a deceased dead person who stayed behind. Yeah, I'll get to her comment after this. Well, I didn't start perceiving ghosts myself until I actively decided to pursue the ability. So mine actually is a bit later. I'm going to say not first interaction with the ghost, but first ghost I was actually able to perceive. So, don't jump in because I'm kind of thinking aloud. There's a trip we took to the Queen Mary, but when I was in my apartment the first time, I hadn't learned how to keep spirits out of my house yet. So, and get to the comments in a moment. I did have like black-eyed children show up in my apartment. That was like the only ghost I dealt with. So I'm not sure which came first, Queen Mary or the black-eyed kid.
Do you want me to answer now?
Sure.
Queen Mary.
Queen Mary. Okay, great. So we took a trip to the Queen Mary, which is in Long Beach, California, and it is a notorious haunted site, and they have ghost tours. So one night, back when we were just friends, we decided to take the midnight tour and actually got a hotel room on the ship. Because when you do that, then you are welcome to openly walk the ship all through the night. And we did.
So much.
And it was terrifying.
It was terrifying.
And one of the reasons we went was because she was teaching me to perceive ghosts. So I perceived a lot of ghosts there. And
it was scary as heck.
So I'll just share one incident. There's a room on the Queen Mary that they no longer even use as a hotel room because the haunting is so prevalent. And they're just like, we're not even dealing with this guy. So it is a stripped, let me tell it. It's okay. No, I was just gonna say they gave up making it into a room because he would like peel the wallpaper off and break the lamps. Like, yeah,
did not want people in that room.
So, and it is a room they show you on the ghost tour, so you can all visit it if you want. Call him my first ghost. So it is a stripped, barren hotel room with a bathroom. and it was like totally dark when we went in there in the tour, and I sensed that he was in the like huddled in the back of the bathrooms. There's all these people in his room. And so I actually stepped in the darkness towards the door of the bathroom, and it was like this really creepy feeling. And he is what we describe as fiending or becoming a fiend, where your soul kind of starts to become disfigured and deteriorate. He wasn't evil, it's just kind of, he looked pretty scary. So I was actually able to perceive him in my mind's eye. It helped that it was completely dark. And I like, you don't have to speak out loud to talk to ghosts. You can just like mentally talk at them. So I said hello and like said my name, and he's like, he kind of like crawled forward because that's how he looked. And he's like, oh, who are you? Because he's not used to people actually looking at him. And then she grabbed me and like dragged me away from him. Like, no. I perceived that he calls himself Jimmy. I don't remember what the actual notated name is, but he does have a middle initial of J. So,
all right. So we can tell you all kinds of stories about the Queen Mary. That was bananas.
It was crazy.
All
if you're
right.
looking for ghosts, that's a hot spot. All right.
So Iris, I'm gonna answer some of these questions briefly. All these are pretty easy questions. So
Iris says, I've had conflicting feedback on whether sage and or salt clear all spirits or if it can be done selectively. What's a good spiritual home hygiene practice that respects resident spirits?
All right. The thing to remember about salt and the thing to remember about sage is intention is everything. You can sage your entire home, and as you're doing so, simply say, negative energy be gone, bad feelings be gone, ill will be gone. You can use sage to clear absolutely anything, and as long as you are tailoring your intention towards things that do not include the spirits in your home, they will be perfectly fine. And look, generally just kind of walk around it anyways, which is why sage is not the best practice for getting rid of ghosts.
Unless literally your entire house is like hot boxed with sage smoke.
They'll just go around it if they don't like it. That's why most people don't get many results from sage. And salt is a protective sort of thing. It doesn't actually purify anything. The thing to remember is salt is meant to protect, and you can include the spirits in your home in that protection.
If anything, clearing your home just helps them.
So
they live there too.
There you go. That's my advice on those. So both things are perfectly safe.
So Tamanda says, how do we not get scared of them?
The thing about spirits, and especially when you can see them or perceive them or feel them, is your own confidence in your abilities and your own confidence in your safety. It's like creating any other boundary. You need healthy boundaries with the living and the dead. Once you've been able to establish healthy boundaries, you will find that there's no reason to be afraid of them.
Yeah.
I know I'm more powerful than them. I know that they are not allowed to come near me unless I give them permission. Creating, walls using rose crosses and being confident in the barriers you create will help you feel less intimidated and less afraid of them. Mm-hmm. Like add anything?
Of spirits. We're all psychic, but most of us are closed. So I was not a naturally open, intuitive, or psychic medium or anything. I had to learn to open those abilities, which meant starting to perceive these things, because I used to not really perceive them at all, and to see them to one degree or another. And I was definitely really afraid of ghosts and spirits. So her advice is accurate as well, remembering that they can't hurt you. Some of them do look very frightening or project very intimidating auras, but you just need to remember that if you hold your boundaries firm, that they can't actually harm you. Mm-hmm. Exposure can help. Unfortunately, that's how I got over my fear, is that I saw a whole lot of things I didn't want to see. A lot, very intensely, and being like very actively attacked. So I got over my fear the hard way.
Do not recommend. I do not recommend.
When I give you guys advice about things to not do, you should really listen.
I do not recommend.
So there's something to be said for exposure, but I would definitely recommend just kind of building your barriers and protections, and to kind of build that sense of faith that things can't hurt you. And as far as if you can't actually like visually perceive them in your mind's eye, that does help to not see what they look like, because there will always be some shock value to the appearance of some of them.
It also helps to remember to have sympathy for them. It's very important that even when you do perceive them in your mind's eye, no matter how horrific they may look, the reason they look that way is because they are losing their sense of self and they're losing their humanity.
They are suffering.
And
That's why they look like that.
They look horrific because they are suffering. So if you can train your instinct to go from, oh God, to, oh no, to have that sympathy right out the gate, oftentimes it alleviates a lot of that fear and it gives you a much stronger place to act from.
All right. Tamanda also asks, can we dream of ghosts? Yes.
Absolutely.
And their past. Yes.
The more attached you are to a spirit, the more you're going to actually hear their thoughts, see their memories, perceive their emotions, and you do have a fairly strong attachment to at least one spirit, the
gentleman in your house.
Mm-hmm. So yes, it is very, very possible for you to dream of ghosts and to perceive their past. It's usually based on whatever memories they hold of their past.
This brings me to an important topic. Yes, having pity and sympathy for them will help with fear, but it needs to be of a certain kind of like more from an understanding and compassion place. Let's just be mindful of the battery.
Okay.
So this is kind of related to protecting yourself from entity sympathy. Too much sympathy or empathy and connecting to them dangerous, and possession is kind of a dramatic word, but it does happen, and there are degrees. It's not kind of like you're possessed or you're not. It's like the dramatic end of like intense attachment to a spirit, and the more attached you are to a spirit, the more it can affect you for good or ill. So like all the bad things that come with hauntings, the more attached you are, the more prone you are to that entity's influence and attacks. And unfortunately, one of the ways that they attach is through your sympathy for them, or if you give them a lot of attention.
The important thing to remember with that is that empathy is far more dangerous than sympathy. It's okay for you to feel bad for something. Don't feel those or its feelings.
Don't try to step into its experience.
Yeah.
Or think very deeply or ruminate on their feelings or what happened to them. Especially the more you identify with that entity, that can open you up. And that can be dangerous. You okay?
Uh-huh. I think I've just been open too long.
It's okay. All right. Holly says, I lived in a very active house when I was younger. It definitely was scary. I bet. That's very I do feel tremendous sympathy for people who are children who had to live in haunted locations, especially if no one believed you or you were kind of dealing with it by yourself. That's very awful.
Yeah.
Awful.
It can be pretty frightening to be a kid and to see spirits. I mentioned my first real experience with ghosts earlier, but throughout my childhood, I had issues with being haunted. And it can be very, very troubling, especially as a child, and especially when you're dealing with things that are not good.
Yeah, and you're by yourself. No one. So, I mean, it's just like you don't know what to do, you know?
Yeah. What else?
Well, let's see what time it is. It's almost 2. So it's almost been 2 hours.
Mm-hmm.
So
last 10 minutes. Any more questions?
Basically,
if you'd like any readings done, we are taking donations in exchange for readings, or if you'd like us to check your house for spiritual presence, we can do that. We've been doing a lot of that today. Mm-hmm. Donation doesn't matter what the price is.
Yeah, so even if it's just $1, a donation of any amount, we'll do a mini reading for you on the subject of ghosts or hauntings. We can check you, your house, or anything else, and tell you about what's there or not there, and if necessary, remove unwanted entities or energies. Also, if anyone else has any questions about ghosts or hauntings, now's the time to ask.
Also, be sure to check the page a little later on today. We will be filming the Rose Cross demonstration a second time. The Rose Cross is a protective spell. It'll keep spirits from being able to attach to you. And of course, we will also be doing a clearing and blessing of our new home. So those videos will also be up a little later today.
So, yes. So if you are not doing so already, I encourage you to like and follow my page, Lysander Xanthus, and her page, The Kitchen Witch, to stay up to date with our content, including the things she just mentioned. There are going to be more videos later today. To stay up to date with events, especially on my page, because I have a regular live Q&A about different metaphysical topics scheduled through the end of the year, as well as moon ritual videos. So I also want to point out something else. So that content's going to be on our Facebooks. If you go to the description of this video, there's the link to our Patreon. So a quick explanation of that. Patreon is a website that allows people who create content. We create spiritual lifestyle videos and teaching tutorials about new age subjects. And it allows the people who follow us and who enjoy our content to support us through a monthly contribution of varying amounts. And in return for your contribution, you get perks. So you get access to exclusive content that isn't just freely available to the public, and some of the membership levels include private readings with me at different regular intervals, whether it's weekly or monthly. So I'm pointing you towards that because there is a lot more content like this there that is not available anywhere else, including our paranormal investigation of one of the missions in California.
And that's where all of our ghost hunting will be.
Yes. So we will be doing more paranormal investigations, and they will all always only be available on Patreon. So you have to join a membership level to access that. And there's a lot more content coming, including more protective techniques. I am in the process, like halfway through a book called Haunted First Aid, like how to deal with spirits and entities, and writing a few other things like how to develop psychic abilities. So I encourage you to check that out and see if any of the membership levels interest you, so that you can have access to that content as it shows up. So there's a lot of free content on our Facebook pages, and there's some free content on the Patreon, but there's a lot more exclusive stuff that's only for members and for a monthly membership contribution each month. So I really encourage you to do that, and I hope that you'll join us. Yes?
I just couldn't hear you say the word encourage one more time.
Brat.
Anytime, Iris. Thank you so much, Brooke, for your well wishes. We are very excited about our new home, and we've got the bones put in, but we've definitely got a lot of work to do, and we're looking forward to sharing a lot of that with you.
Yeah.
And yes, lots of upcoming content. Sorry, we don't mean to be adorable. It's just kind of like a natural thing for us, apparently.
I know, we're like way toned down when we know people are watching.
Yeah.
I'm sorry to hear that, Brooke. That sounds terrible, and it's worse that you were invalidated.
Yeah. It's always unfortunate when people, especially adults, silly adults, don't understand when a child is gifted spiritually. It's really a pity.
Yeah. All right, so last call for any questions or mini readings.
Questions, comments, or concerns. You can always access us for mini readings, full readings. Just say hey. Message us.
I offer full private readings about any subject. My rate is $80 an hour, so just message me to arrange that. Right now, payment is only accepted through PayPal. Also, by the way, the PayPal link is in the description of this video, so if you would like to donate just to support our work, or because you'd like a mini reading before this video ends, you can do so through there.
Or if you just want to pitch in a couple of bucks so we can get towels for our new home.
Yeah.
Also, we don't talk about it very often, but if you ever find yourself in a spiritual situation and you're in need and you can't afford a reading, but you just need some help, please never be afraid to reach out to us. We aren't just here to, support our lifestyle. We're here to help people, and we are always available, always willing to help. So never be afraid to just reach out and say hello.
Yes. Also, thanks, Priscilla. Alrighty, well, we will give people a moment to ask or request. I'm glad to hear that, Brooke. I know I already mentioned this, but on my page, check out the events section. I think November 9th, next weekend, is my next live Q&A, and the subject is curses and removing them. So I encourage you to check that out if the subject interests you. Click interested or going so that you get the reminder of when it is, and then just go to my page at that time to catch the live video.
Yeah. Also check back later. Lots of videos and content and things. And if you haven't liked The Kitchen Witch, you should do that. Got all kinds of fun things going on in the near future.
Yes, we actually have a kitchen now, so she can actually do Kitchen Witch.
Yeah, kitchen.
Yeah.
I don't just have a cubby in a corner. I have a real kitchen now.
I think we're good. It doesn't look like anyone else has questions.
I can't wait to see what I'm going to do either. I don't know. All right.
Well, I guess that's it then. You can my inbox is open at any time. Please like my page and her page so you can stay up to date with what's going on. Thank you everyone who joined and participated, and a big thank you to everyone who donated. This is what we do for a living. So this is our income and what we live off of and how we feed our cats.
And how we keep our new home.
Yes, how we keep our new home, our first apartment ever. So really, honestly, thank you so much for the donations, and we will see you again later. Be blessed and have a wonderful day.
Namaste, everybody.
Oh, one last question. I didn't
last
quite
question.
hit the finish button. Tamanda says, how long have the both of you been on your journey? I don't even know how to define when it started.
I saw dead people when I was 7.
I walked into my body when it was already 5 years old, so.
And even before I saw my first dead person, my mother was a practicing green witch, so
My soul is a few thousand years old, so who's to say when technically is the beginning?
Technically, my journey began 6,000 years ago in Greece. There we go. No, lifetime. It's all our lives.
Yeah. I began officially studying magic when I was 20 and met my teacher.
My mother was a practicing green witch, so I grew up with it.
That's how I best say it. Hi, Herman.
Hi, Herman.
Thanks.
All right.
Bye.